Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all.
Hi readers, Chris here. Welcome to my channel where I review fantasy, Stephen King, all sorts of books, and in honor of Independence Day, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 most anticipated book releases for July 2023. As per usual, I have a lot of fantasy and genre books on my list, and these are not all the books that are coming out this month. These are just the ones that I am most excited for. And yeah, it was hard to pick out just 10 books. There was a lot this month that I wanted. I had a list of like 20 that I had to narrow down. So a couple things in case you're new here. I typically don't pick sequels. I try to pick new things. But of course, every once in a while, I break that rule. These are not going to be in any sort of order other than by publication date, and because of the holiday, most books come out on a Tuesday, but because their 4th of July is on a Tuesday this year, the majority of major publications aren't even coming out until next week. So let me jump in with my number one pick for July, which is going to be Splinter in the Sky by Kemi Ashing-Giwa, which I'm sure I pronounced wrong, but I do the best that I can. According to the notes on Amazon, this is a debut book from this author. It's supposed to be a diverse space opera. I've been reading a lot of sci-fi recently, so that's why I was drawn to this one. I'm going to read you what it says, and you can let me know what you think. The dust may have just settled on the failed war of conquest between the Holy Valbrayan Empire and the Amanrish Republic. But the last emperor's surrender means little to a lowly scribe like Enitan. All she wants is to quit her day job and expand her fledgling tea business. But when her lover is assassinated and her siblings are abducted by imperial soldiers, Enitan abandons her idyllic plans and weaves her tea tray up through the heart of the Valbrayan capital. There, she will learn just how far she's willing to go to exact vengeance, free her siblings, and perhaps even secure her homeland's freedom. Not much to go on there, but I think it sounds really cool. If you've ever seen Arcane, the animated show on Netflix, it's giving me a little bit of those type of vibes. It's giving me Final Fantasy type vibes. If it's like at all like any of those things, this could be a winner. So if the Splinter in the Sky sounds like a winner to you, it'll be available on July 11th. My second pick for July is going to be the Judas Blossom by Stephen Aryan, and this is supposed to be a first book in a new epic fantasy series that is a reimagining of the Mongol Empire's invasion of Persia, which sounds, doesn't that just sound cool, just saying that? But okay, this is what this book says. 2060 Persia. Due to the efforts of the great Genghis Khan, the Mongol Empire covers a vast portion of the known world. In the shadow of his grandfather, Hualgo Khan, ruler of the Incanhate, is determined to create a single empire that covers the entire world. His method? Violence. His youngest son, Temujin Khan, struggles to find his place in his father's bloody rule. After another failure, Temujin is given one last chance to prove himself to his father, who is sure to be a great warrior buried deep inside. But there's something else rippling under the surface, something far more powerful and dangerous than they ever could imagine. Reduced to the position of one of Hualgo's many wives, the famed blue princess Kokoshin is the last of her tribe. Alone and forgotten in a foreign land, Kokoshin is unwilling to spend her days seeking out trivial pursuits. Seeking purpose, she finds herself wandering down a path that grants her more power than a wife of the Khan may be allowed. Kayvan, the Persian rebel who despises the Mongols for the massacre of his people, thirsts for revenge. However, he alone knows he cannot destroy the empire. When given the opportunity to train under the tutelage of Hualgu, Kayvan must put aside his feelings and risk his life for a chance to destroy the empire that aims to conquer the world. Family and war collide in this thrilling and bloody reimagining of the Mongol Empire's invasion of Persia. Okay, obviously there's a lot going on here. I'm getting 300 vibes. I'm getting some John Gwynne vibes. If this is half as good as it sounds, again, it could be a big hit. So if it sounds good to you, the Judas Blossom will be available on July 11th. My third pick for July is going to be The Saint of Bright Doors by Vajra Chandrasekera. Again, probably not pronouncing that right, but once more, we have another epic fantasy that sounds super fun. So according to Amazon, this one is about Fetterer, who was raised to kill, honed as a knife to cut down his sainted father. This gave him plenty to talk about in therapy. He walked among invisible powers, devils and anti-gods that mock the mortal form. He learned a lethal catechism, lost his shadow, and gained a habit for secrecy. But after a blood-soaked childhood, Fetterer escaped his rural hometown for the big city and fell into a broader world where divine destinies are a dime a dozen. Everything in Laureate is more than it seems. Group therapy is a recruitment for a revolutionary cadre. Junk email hints at the arrival of a god. Every door is laden with potential, and once closed may never open again. The city is scattered with bright doors, looming portals through which a cold wind blows. In this unknowable metropolis, Fetterer will discover what kind of man he is, and his discovery will rewrite the world. Okay, first of all, the fact that this fantasy book is blending therapy with like this crazy epic fantasy sounds really, really cool to me. And I love the line about junk email hints at the arrival of a god. I mean, wow. This has the potential to be something really unique, I think, and really special. I love when like fantasy and modern things meet. I think that can be really cool. So if the Saint of Bright Doors sounds like it might be cool to you, it'll be available on July 11th. My fourth pick for July is called A Warning of Swans by R.M. Romero. This book is described as Swan Lake meets The Last Unicorn, and really, I don't need to know anything else at that point. But if you do, this story takes place in Bavaria, 1880. Hildy was dreamed into existence by the god Odin, and along with her 5 sisters, granted cloaks that transform them into swans. Each sister's cloak is imbued with a unique gift, but Hildy rejects her gift, which allows her to lead the souls of dying creatures to the afterlife. While guiding the soul of a hawk, Hildy meets the handsome Baron Maximilian von Richter, whose father left him no inheritance. Hildy is intrigued by Richter's longing for a greater life and strikes a deal with him. She will manifest his dreams of riches, and in return, he will take her to the human world, where the Song of Souls can't reach her. But at the court of King Ludwig II in Munich, Hildy struggles to fit in. After learning that fashionable ladies are sitting for portraits, she hires non-binary Jewish artist Franz Mendelssohn, who is stunned when Franz renders her with swan wings. The more time she spends with Franz, the more she feels drawn to the artist's warmth, understanding, nature, and the more controlling Richter becomes. When Hildy's swan cloak suddenly goes missing, only Franz's ability to paint the true nature of souls can help Hildy escape her newfound prison. Obviously, there is a lot going on here, but I love the unique setting that this takes place in. Bavaria in the 1800s. That's not a time period I typically read about. The fact that it's a fantasy, the fact that it is Swan Lake, which is like one of my favorite fairy tales of all time, and then The Last Unicorn. I'm a child of the 80s. This has all the things that could potentially make it a big winner for me. So if it sounds like it might be a big winner for you, A Warning of Swans will be available on July 11th. Okay, I promise not all of these books are coming out on the 11th, but I have one last one for you, and that is Queen of Exiles by Vanessa Riley. So this is a historical fiction, but this is based on the real life of Queen Marie-Louise, who originally was from Haiti and left Haiti and then established her own kingdom in France. True story. So, the Queen of Exiles is Marie-Louise Christophe, a wife and then widow of Henry I, who ruled over the newly liberated Kingdom of Haiti in the wake of the brutal Haitian Revolution. In 1810, Louise is crowned queen as her husband begins his reign over the first and only free Black nation in the Western Hemisphere. But despite their newfound freedom, Haitians still struggle under mountains of debt to France and indifference when former allies in Britain and the United States. Louise desperately tries to steer the country's political course as King Henry descends into a mire of mental illness. In 1920, King Henry is overthrown and dies by his own hand. Louise and her daughters manage to flee to Europe with their smuggled jewels. In exile, the Brazilian Louise redefines her role, recovering the fortune that Henry had lost and establishing herself as an equal to the kings of European nations. With newspapers and gossip tracking their every movement, Louise and her daughters tour Europe like other royals, complete with glittering balls and princes with marriage proposals. As they find their footing and acceptance, they discover more about themselves, their Blackness, and the opportunities they can grasp in a European and male-dominated world. Queen of Exiles is the tale of a remarkable Black woman of history, a canny and bold survivor who chooses the fire and ideals of political struggle and then is forced to rebuild her own life on her own terms, forever a queen. So the reason that I am drawn to this book is I recently read Babel by R.F. Kuang, and there was a character in that book who originally came from Haiti. And when I learned about this character, it sent me down this whole rabbit hole where I was Googling, Haitian history. So I had heard about this queen and I had heard about, what happened. And so when I saw this book coming out, I was like, oh my God, yes, I have to put this on my list because more people need to know about this history. So if Queen of Exiles sounds like something you want to know more about, it'll be available on July 11th. My sixth pick for July is going to be Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. She is most known for her YA stories, but this is actually her first adult fantasy tale, adult fantasy. And it says that it's inspired by Anthony and Cleopatra, so we'll see if that is the case. Every year, thousands in the kingdom of Talon will flock to its capital twin cities, Saint-Cyr, where the palace hosts a set of games. For those confident enough in their ability to jump between bodies, competitors across Saint-Cyr fight to the death to win unimaginable riches. Princess Kala Tulami lurks in hiding. 5 years ago, a massacre killed her parents and left the palace of empty. But she was the one who did it. Before King Kasa's forces in San can catch her, she plans to finish the job and bring down the monarchy. Reclusive uncle greets the victor of the games, so if she wins, she gets her opportunity to kill him at last. Enter Anton Makusa, an exiled aristocrat. His childhood love has lain in a coma since they were both ousted from the palace, and he's deeply in debt trying to keep her alive. Thankfully, he's one of the best jumpers in the kingdom, flitting from body to body at will. His last chance at saving her is entering the games and winning. Kala finds both an unexpected alliance with Anton and help from King Kasa's adopted son, August, who wants to mend Talon's ills. But the three of them have very different goals, even as Kala and Anton's partnership spirals into something all-consuming. Before the game's closed, Kala must decide what she's playing for, her lover or her kingdom. Okay, obviously this sounds like a classic fantasy romance, which can be hit or miss for me. It also looks like this might be the first book in a series, so sometimes that makes me nervous as well, but I'm willing to give it a chance, so if you are willing to give Immortal Longings a chance, it'll be available on July 18th. My seventh pick for July is going to be The Deep Sky by Yume Kitasei. Another science fiction book, allegedly. Again, like I said, I am being drawn to these more and more, so hopefully this one will be another winner. So this book says, it is the eve of Earth's environmental collapse. A single ship carries humanity's last hope. 80 elite graduates of a competitive program who will give birth to a generation of children in deep space. But halfway to a distant but livable planet, a lethal bomb kills 3 of the crew and knocks the Phoenix off course. Asuka, the only surviving witness, is an immediate suspect. As the mystery unfolds on the ship, poignant flashbacks reveal how Asuka came to be picked for the mission. Despite struggling through training back on Earth, she was chosen to represent Japan, a country she only partly knows as a half-Japanese girl raised in America. But estranged from her mother back home, the Phoenix is all she has left. With the crew turning on each other, Asuka is determined to find the culprit before they all lose faith in the mission, or worse, the bomber strikes again. I love how this sounds like a sci-fi, but also a bit of a mystery, a bit of a whodunit. I think that's all really cool, and if it truly takes place in this one contained location on the ship, that could be really fun as well. Any book that takes place in one location, that's really hard to do. So if it's done well, this could be a winner. So if it sounds like it will be a winner to you, The Deep Sky will be available on July 18th. All right, getting down to the end here with number 8, Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. She has had a bunch of hit books so far: Mexican Gothic, The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, Velvet Was the Night, which I really enjoyed. So this is her newest book. Again, it's supposed to be kind of a crime noir novel and takes place in the 90s in Mexico. Montserrat has always been overlooked. She's a talented sound editor, but she's left out of the boys' club running the film industry in 90s Mexico City. She's all but invisible to her best friend, Tristan, a charming, if faded, soap opera star, though she's been in love with him since childhood. Then, Tristan discovers his new neighbor is the cult horror director, Abel Utrea, and the legendary Artur claims he can change their lives, even if his tale of a Nazi occultist imbuing magic into highly volatile silver nitrate stock sounds like sheer fantasy. The magic film was never finished, which is why, Utera swears, his career vanished overnight. He is cursed. Now, the director wants Montserrat and Tristan to help him shoot the missing scene and lift the curse. But Montserrat soon notices a dark presence following her, and Tristan begins seeing the ghost of his ex-girlfriend. As they work together to unravel the mystery of the film and the obscure occultist who once roamed their city, Montserrat and Tristan may find that sorcerers and magic are not the only stuff of movies. Okay, there are so many things going on here. We've got supernatural elements, we've got movies and magic and mystery. I love all that stuff. Silvia Moreno-Garcia does such a good job of blending these different things into her stories. And of course, I love the unique setting that this takes place in, the 90s in Mexico City. Like I said before, when I was talking about the Swan book, this is a time period and place I haven't read much about, so really looking forward to diving into this one. If this sounds like something that you would like to dive into, Silver Nitrate will be available on July 18th. My 9th pick for July is The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Romero Lacruz. This is another fantasy that is allegedly inspired by South American folklore, which is not a folklore I am familiar with at all, so I had to put this one on my list. So again, according to Amazon, this book features 2 sisters, one named Reina. Reina is desperate. Stuck on the edges of society, Reina's only hope lies in an invitation from her grandmother that she's never met. But the journey to her is dangerous, and prayer can't always avert disaster. Attacked by creatures that stalk the mountains, Reina is on the verge of death until her grandmother, a dark sorceress, intervenes. Now, dependent on the Doña's magic for her life, Reina will do anything to earn and keep her favor, even the bidding of an ancient god who whispers to her at night. Eva Karase is unwanted. Illegitimate and of mixed heritage, Eva is her family's shame. She tries to be the perfect daughter, but Eva is hiding a secret. Magic calls to her. Eva knows she should fight the temptation. Magic is the sign of the dark god, and using it is punishable by death. Yet it's hard to ignore power when it has always been denied you. Eva is walking a dangerous path, and in the end, she'll become something she never imagined. Okay, I think I said these two girls were sisters. I don't think they are. I think they're just two women, two different courses. Clearly, they're going to cross paths at some point. Maybe one of them is the sun and one of them is the void. I don't know, but I do want to find out. So if you want to find out, The Sun and the Void will be available on July 25th. And finally, that brings me to my 10th pick of July, which is going to be Bonesmith by Nicki Preto. And the reason that I picked this one is because it is described as Gideon the Ninth meets the Game of Thrones White Walkers in this dark YA fantasy. Okay, that got me with White Walkers. It got me with White Walkers. I don't know if any of these other books were YA. I think they were all adult. I'll have to go back and check. But anyway, ready your blade, defeat the undead. This one sounds cool. In the Dominions, the dead linger, violent and unpredictable, unless a bonesmith severs the ghost from its earthly remains. For Bonesmith Wren, becoming a Valkyrie, a ghost-fighting warrior, is a chance to solidify her place in the noble House of Bone and impress her frequently absent father. But when sabotage causes Wren to fail her qualifying trial, she is banished to the border wall, the last line of defense against a wasteland called the Breach, where the vicious dead roam unchecked. Determined to reclaim her family's respect, Wren gets her chance when a House of Gold prince is kidnapped and taken beyond the wall. To prove that she has what it takes to be a Valkyrie, Wren vows to cross the breach and rescue the prince. But to do so, she's forced into an uneasy alliance with one of the kidnappers, a fierce ironsmith called Julian from the exiled House of Iron, the very people who caused the breach in the first place, and the House of Bones' sworn enemy. As they travel, Wren and Julian spend as much time fighting each other as they do the undead. And when they discover there's more behind the kidnapping than either of them knew, they'll need to work together to combat the real danger, a dark alliance that is brewing between the living and the undead. Ooh, dun dun dun. Okay, again, part of this sounds like typical YA stuff. I'm assuming that there's going to be a romance between these enemies to possibly lovers. But I love the whole thing about the dead here, the Walking Dead, the White Walker type thing. I think all that sounds really cool. So if Bonesmith sounds like it might be really cool to you, it'll be available on July 25th. So there you have it. Those are all my picks for July. So now I want to know from you, what are you most looking forward to reading in July? Was it something I mentioned, something I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. All right, everyone, happy reading.